So hello and welcome. My name's Steve Nobel, and today I'm speaking with Niki Gratrix on sound healing for emotional detox. Niki is an award-winning, internationally renowned functional health practitioner and medical empath, helping people to optimize emotional and physical health. She trained at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition in the UK and served as the Vice Chair of the British Association for Applied Nutrition and Nutritional Therapy 2012-2013. Before that, she co-founded one of the largest mind-body clinics in integrative medicine in the UK. She's spoken on many online health summits, and I think last year she co-hosted one of the largest ever online events connecting to emotional trauma with about 200,000 attendees. Amazing. And her website is nikigratrix.com. So hi, Niki.
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much for having me. Oh,
my pleasure. Can I ask you about your journey? Because when I had a look, just had a look at your website, it looked like you'd had a journey as a chartered accountant or something like that before.
Yes.
Is that right? Do you have a previous life?
I did. I had a past life in this life I started in banking and finance. I was, did an economics degree. And I think I was trying to sort of be my father's best son that I could be. A bit off track, and discovered halfway through, I was actually at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and about halfway through, I was like, what am I doing? This is totally wrong. It's not. This is, it's a real moment of a heart-opening moment that I actually had. It was a type of spiritual awakening I had actually while I was there, and I was a total fish out of the water after that. And I left. I just used just stayed in that business for about 7 years, saving up money to totally retrain into something else, which was then to become a natural health practitioner, starting with that. So yeah, it was this journey that we take, isn't it? That who we are in childhood is the idea of what our parents want us to be, and then we discover who we are, and it was that journey.
Oh yeah, well, I was a kind of spiritual teenager that got shut down, thinking, oh, I'm too weird. So I went into banking, and I was really, from day one, like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But I stayed for 9-10 years. But
yes.
Was the Optimum Nutrition, is that the Patrick Holford?
Yes, it was originally by him. Yes, the Institute for Optimum Nutrition. So it was the closest that we kind of have to functional health back then. It was back in 2004, I think, when I started there. So it's the best kind of nutrition school. There are a couple of others now as well, still out there. But yeah, it was the best you could get in the UK at the time. So that's where I got my 3-year diploma in. That's where I started.
Is it still going?
I believe it is. Yeah. I think there's more than ever people joining to get into that area. It's a growth area.
Well, Patrick Holford, I've listened to him many times. His books are quite voluminous and complex and intricate, and he knows his stuff, basically.
Yes, yeah, he was the founder. He hasn't worked there for a long time now, but there's a board and all of that now, and a trustees board and things like that. But yeah, good old Patrick.
Very good. So how did you get into sound healing from from nutrition?
Wow. Okay. So yeah, it's quite a long journey actually. So I once I left banking, then I started a clinic, co-founded a clinic back in about 2004, the Optimum Health Clinic, and it was specializing in chronic fatigue syndrome, actually people with fatigue. And then we went into working with the whole spectrum of illness, from chronic fatigue, Lyme disease, this whole picture. And right when we started the clinic, we always had a psychology division, and we had a physical health, nutrition, functional health division as well. So I was always we were mind body from the beginning. I was never just focused on the sort of just the physical side. So I started to learn a lot about EFT, the psychological impact of trauma, PTSD, things like this on the biology. So I did that for like 5 years, moved on for the clinic. We got our data published with the British Medical Journal while we were at that clinic, by the way. And we were using EFT as well, and things like that. But I got much more interested in energy medicine, vibrational medicine. And that was part of the springboard about why I left the Optimal Health Clinic, because they got all serious because they got recognition in the British Medical Journal. And I wanted to stay at the cutting edge of like new things coming through that maybe wouldn't have been in a double-blind placebo-controlled trial. So that's where I moved on. And I was a big fan of people like Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt and Dr. James Oshman and some of the leading experts, Lynn McTaggart and people like this, who were really writing about and helping people to understand energetics, vibrational medicine. So I wanted to incorporate that in. So it's not like I just left everything and just did that. I now incorporate everything, but the energetic part is a really core, crucial part of that. It's probably the jewel in the crown of what I do now. So it was a sort of transition. So it started with just nutrition, then it was my body, and then it went more energy.
Okay. And let me ask you about, because vibrational medicine is quite broad, isn't it? And I've often thought that, you know, regular medicine thinks of it as an odd neighbor, you know, like someone lives next door and they're odd, so we don't talk to them. Or sometimes it might be that they do talk, but they're kind of, it's not a super friendly relationship generally, is it? I know where I'm living now, we've got a doctor's surgery that actually, I think you can, I'm not that I go to the doctors very much, but they actually will offer yoga or osteo or acupuncture. So there is some alternative where I'm living. But generally, I think around the country, it's kind of two different camps, isn't it?
It is still, unfortunately, I think it's a great shame, because also when you talked about yoga there, that's interesting because it's kind of body, mind, body. But if you just talk about pure vibrational medicine, like you say, that's a really broad topic. And what a lot of conventional medical doctors and still even now don't realize is that there's thousands of science papers in PubMed, for example, on red light therapy for healing illnesses or pulse electromagnetic frequency therapy. Now, these are hardcore physics-backed devices, tools, modalities that tons of people in research settings are using. Dentists have started to use light therapy, and they're talking about how they'll be able to regrow teeth instead of having to do, implants and things. We've got red light therapy being used to rebuild neurons in the brain after stroke injury and stuff like this. The problem is that kind of cutting edge research, which is a lot of it's mainstream, it's in PubMed, you can look it up on PubMed, which is the main science data. The problem is that you sort of, at the moment, you'll still read it in books, and maybe if you're a bit of somebody who likes reading science papers about things or the latest data on new science approaches to health, it won't be in your local surgery just yet, although it's starting to seep in. I'm finding sort of with certain modalities, you can get the research together and kind of show it to your doctor and go, I know you haven't heard about this, but I'm using this as well. Here's the papers behind it. It's not just woo-woo. So you're right about this broad spectrum of what energy medicine means, because anything which is based on physics rather than biochemistry, broadly speaking, that's energy medicine. It's vibrational medicine. I mean, it's resonance. You're using resonance. That's how light therapy works. That's how PEMP therapy works. That's how sound therapy works. So, and there's absolutely hardcore data showing how that works, why it works. We could talk about ultrasound. We'll talk about it more. But ultrasound therapy, for example, there's loads of conventional research on ultrasound therapy, and you can go to hospital and get ultrasound therapy, right? So, and you've also got things like electromagnetic frequencies being used as diagnostic tools in a conventional setting. PET scans, CAT scans, EEG, that's all electromagnetics. It's the body electric. And we've got sonograms, that's sound therapy, that's sound to look at the, babies' fetuses, right? So it's actually, it's a lot more. We have a mindset, and that definitely conventional medicine and your local GP has a mindset that is very sort of biochemical focused. And yet when you actually talk to them about it, you kind of go, do you realize we're actually beings of resonance, and we have an electric body and an energy field, and actually you're using it every day, and you're sending your patients off to use that stuff every day when you diagnose people or send them for a sonogram. But anyway, I'll get off my little rant, but I'm not ranting, but yeah, it's just
good. It's good that you rant. I think a rant is good.
Okay, great. So yeah, there's a lot of misunderstanding. So there's a whole range of types of therapies which are loads of data behind them, and then you get into a little bit more perceived out there things like maybe remote healing, maybe Reiki healing, things like this. More actually what you could call informational medicine. You're getting into true quantum physics and entanglement, which kind of explaining about human consciousness and intention at the sort of quantum level. That is the most out there, but I think us who are the more educated in health and have been in the spiritual communities for a long period of time now, we know it works and we know it's real. We just and we're just waiting for the rest of the medicine to kind of catch up and kind of for the work and the data to come out to support it. So that's kind of what I do. It's something I already know works, and then I go and find the data to prove it.
Brilliant. We need people like you, Niki. Can I ask you about sound healing? Because sound healing is itself very broad, isn't it? You've got, I've experienced shamanic drumming, tuning forks, sound bowls. I mean, we've got them here. toning. I mean, there's so much. I mean, I listen to solfeggio a lot,
Right.
all this kind of thing. What is your particular, could you say something about that? And what is your particular interest or focus?
Well, it's good to have a bit of a framework to understand about sound therapy. So I mentioned light therapy. So you have this electromagnetic spectrum, right, where you've got light, and it's the electromagnetic spectrum is a profound healing modality, and it's photons of light going at the speed of light, and they're a wave shape, and when you shine that at somebody, you create resonance and you charge the body, and that's one of the ways you change the biology. With sound therapy, the principle is the same. You're using resonance and you're using charge, but it's all measured in hertz still, and you have frequency. It's just that it's pressured airwaves. It's airwaves sort of being sat. What is sound? It's basically sort of rhythmic pressure, air pressure that is moving through the air at the speed of sound, right? Which is a lot slower than the speed of light. So, but it's the same idea. So all of these things, like whether it's a tuning fork, whether it's a Tibetan bowl, you're listening to solfeggio music, it's all working with resonance and fields where we're talking about basically an oscillator. A tuning fork is an oscillator, so it's creating a pulsed frequency that then what we do, it's called coupled oscillation, and it's where if you hold a tuning fork near you, or you activate a tuning fork and you hold another one next to it, the other one will start moving. You activate this one and that one will start resonating as well. So it's a coupled oscillator. That's how it works on our biology and on our emotions. When you use a tuning fork or you listen to music, partly through entrainment, through resonance, where if you activate one frequency, it causes your frequency to raise and match that frequency. That's how we're potentiating change in the biology, in the energy field. So we're changing your frequency. We're even changing the speed that the molecules are kind of moving at, and we can change the ions across the cell membranes of your body. We can stimulate stem cells with sound therapy. That's the cutting edge research, is that sound therapy is being used to stimulate stem cells, and it's a massive growth area in regenerative medicine. You can also use pulse electromagnetic frequency, right? So it's all these frequencies where we talk about waves, whether it's sound or light. So that's how sound works. You can change the epigenetic expression of your biology using sound therapy, change your emotional state, change your biology, and stimulate stem cells. So wow. So it's the hardcore data's there. And there's a lot of data. Actually, a good analogy just with sound therapy, it helps people to understand. If you think about an opera singer when she's singing and how she can shatter a glass, right?
Yeah.
That's resonance and oscillation. So you're making the molecules of the glass move at the same frequency as her voice is, and it's changing physical matter. It's causing the glass to want to reorganize itself, and so it shatters, right? So ultrasound therapy is that there's a protocol called lithotripsy, where you can use sound therapy to break up kidney stones, right? That's sound.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, breaks up kidney stones. So sound changes physical matter. So that it's absolutely unquestionable. So and then you can get into the realm of like what's the best type of frequencies and all those kind of things, which is very interesting. And we can talk more about those. But I work with solfeggio music. I work with tuning forks. And I use sort of therapists that also help people get into very deep meditative states to help change the brain waves, to help people get into better meditation as well.
Well, we know that voice can shatter a glass, as you say, and there is machinery now or techniques to shatter kidney stones. What about the emotions in a human body? Because that's kind of a different frequency itself, isn't it? What about, for example, someone who has a problem with anger or guilt or fear? Yeah. Can sound help?
This is why I got into this therapy, because I was researching tons about trauma, and then I ran that big trauma summit that you mentioned where we had 200,000 people. We had people like Professor Bessel van der Kolk, who's the lead speaker, who's the world leading expert on trauma and is a New York Times bestseller and all the rest of it. And he kind of summed it up and said, for trauma anyway, yapping doesn't really work. Right. So talk therapies are not the best thing. And one of the for trauma and certain very kind of, especially developmental trauma, attachment trauma, it's early life trauma, which is not in response to a discrete event, but a chronic, like a chronic thing about it was how your relationship was with your parents or key caregivers, and it becomes more of your identity, like guilt becomes your identity, right? Or hatred or whatever, self-hatred. That's what I was interested in. PTSD, which is actually in response to a discrete event, like one event, that's actually pretty curable. And most people should just go and get some EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprogramming. But here's the interesting thing. EMDR and EFT, they're energy psychologists, right? So the cutting edge for trauma is turning into energy psychologists. It's all the energy psychologists, it's energy medicine. Emotions aren't nothing. Actually, they have some density. They have a tiny bit of density and they have a frequency. And they also are stored in basically where are memories and their associated emotions stored in the body. I mean, I can promise you that the neuroscientists like looked at, if you cut a neuron in the brain, you won't find a memory, right? So they haven't found it actually stored. It leaves an imprint on the brain for our memories and stuff, and our sort of chronic emotions. It leaves imprints on the brain, on the biology, but where is it actually stored? And you've got people like Carl Prubom now who said many years ago now that they're not stored in the neurons or in the neurons, but they're stored in the waves created from all the neurons firing together around the brain, the field around the brain. So we're getting into the idea, this is where science is actually showing again that we have an auric field, we have an electromagnetic field that extends a couple of feet out around the body. And it's like our emotions, psycho-emotions are probably most likely stored there, which is why EFT, which is tapping on the end of meridian points, is very good to heal PTSD and certain sort of short-term emotions, as is EMDR, which is moving your eyes. What you're doing is you're changing the frequency in the field around the body. So this is where things like sound therapy really come in, because what do you do about something like you said, somebody with a chronic emotion, but a lot of it, and it seems to be identical? Well, that's a lot of therapy, a lot of hours of therapy, potentially working with a sound therapist or working with kind of somebody who could help transmute that. And it's a lot of work, which is why I teach people to use a tuning fork on themselves to transmute those kind of emotions. And I think things like transcranial therapy, transcranial PEMP therapy, sound therapy is a much better answer for developmental trauma, which is these long-term chronic negative emotions. So what I change people's emotional set point, like their default emotional set point. I want to work on raising that for them, and that requires some daily practice. We do that with the meditations that I create, and I teach people to use tuning forks on themselves. And I specifically chose those therapies because PTSD is relatively curable. It's pretty easy to cure. It's the hardcore stuff of how we feel about ourselves on a daily basis and our default set point when things go wrong, the self-love deficit stuff. That's what I want to transmute. And I think sound therapy and some of the meditations I create, that's what that's for. And it's daily practice, you need to do it on a daily practice because there's a lot to transmute.
Brilliant.
in that state since birth. Since birth, you've been in that state. I might as well just be honest and say, yeah, it's going to take quite a few hours.
So I know you've got a meditation, Niki, so I'll pass it over to you.
Take a deep breath. Feel the breath move through your nose into your body, down into your belly, and out through your feet. Take another deep, conscious breath. Breathing in the life force energy. In through the nose. Feel it fill up your chest and heart center. Expanding your tummy taking the energy down through your legs, releasing through the feet. Keep breathing. Bringing your awareness to this now moment with the breath. Just allow any thoughts. Don't worry about them, they'll be there. Just keep focusing on the breath. Keep the breath going, gently breathing into this safe space. Slowly and gently, you can open up to feeling connected again. So simple. It was right under your nose. Here is where you can connect with the soul. When you open up to the present moment, this now moment, bring all your consciousness into this now moment. This is where you can open up to the energies that support you. Reconnect with your own divinity, your soul. The soul is the part of you that is unbroken. It's untouched by human experience. It cannot be manipulated or controlled. Nothing has been hidden from you. There is no seeking required. The soul is accessed through your state of consciousness. Here is where you can connect back to your soul. The soul doesn't care what you do. It just loves you unconditionally. It was here all along. It never left. It was waiting for you to open up to it again. Because you got disconnected from it. The soul is you. It's part of the self. The self was meant to be a gift for you alone. It belongs to you. But something happened. Somewhere you lost this connection to the soul. It was early on, when you came into the world as a child. You were innocent and sensitive and new. You absorbed what was going on around you like a sponge. And you took on the emotional energies of others as if they belonged to you. Perhaps others were stressed, angry, or depressed. Perhaps you felt unwelcomed. Perhaps no one noticed you or cared enough. Perhaps there was a lack of emotional attunement. It led to the first wound, the root wound, which is separation. This feeling of disconnection has been with you ever since. A feeling like you would never know home again. Like you would never feel the love and unconditional acceptance again. This separation was the first illusion, part of a grand misperception, the grand misunderstanding. The illusion of separation, the source of so much pain, isolation and suffering. But through repeated reprogramming, you can access this love again. Your soul has always been here. It is pristine, beautiful, and untouched by any of your human experiences. Release this belief in separation. You are never alone. You never were disconnected. Feeling connected is a state of consciousness that can be chosen when you remember. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and gently release this old belief in separation. Let yourself open up to the love of your soul again. Allow yourself to remember you came from oneness. It has just been hidden. Gently, gracefully open up now to your soul again. You are never alone. Let home come to you. Let the love of your soul be in your life again. Perhaps with a tear in your eye and the love in your heart. Release the belief you're isolated and alone. And remember, there is no separation between you and your soul. The next wound, resulting from this belief in separation, was when you found yourself in this suffering, the isolation and loneliness, created a new belief, a new grand misunderstanding. The idea that you must have done something wrong. You mistakenly thought it must be your fault. You must be flawed, defective, or wrong. You must have done something unholy, something unsacred. This is when the shame and the self-loathing started, and you started to doubt yourself. This belief system would have been reinforced by the behavior of teachers, parents, spiritual and religious leaders, and organizations who caused you to doubt and loathe yourself even more. Perhaps you witnessed or experienced violence. Perhaps you were humiliated or shunned at school. Maybe there was inappropriate touching. All this caused you to run from yourself, to blame and find fault with yourself. The self you was meant as a gift, but you closed up and limited it. Put yourself down with beliefs that you weren't worthy. Allow yourself to release the belief in being defective. Nothing was your fault. There is no need for forgiveness because you did nothing wrong. There is no fall from grace with your soul. This belief you are shameful and guilty has stopped you seeing who you really are. And this has made you feel less than whole. Allow yourself to release the belief in guilt and loathing of the self. As you release this belief, feel the love of spirit and compassion for everything you have ever done, or thought, or felt. And as you feel this true and pure love, rejoice in the freedom from feeling defective, shameful, and guilty. When love and self-acceptance return, you open up to a life of freedom and joy. When you feel you can support yourself again, the joy and the energy in the body begins to flow again. When you feel worthy and enough, you have nothing to prove to anyone. When you feel worthy and enough, how other people see you becomes irrelevant. When you feel worthy and enough, abundance and health naturally begin to flow to you. The anxiety and the depression begins to melt away. you can slow down and enjoy life again. There is no fear of failure. Through the eyes of self-love, the whole world changes. You begin to soften, become more authentic, honest and transparent. You no longer find fault with your body, your shape or weight, or how you are aging. When you feel self-love, you have resilience to setbacks. An end of a relationship doesn't mean you are unlovable. The failure of a project doesn't mean you are a failure. When you feel self-love and worthy, you don't perceive a health issue as something you deserved for punishment. When you learn to love the self, you begin to experience harmony and a felt sense of peace. Sleep improves, energy improves, feelings of well-being increase. You begin to feel compassion for the innocent virgin being you were born as. When we learn to believe that we are enough, we connect to the divine self, and we know in every ounce of our being that we are enough. You are always enough. You are enough. You will always be enough. You are good enough. You are good. You are lovable. You have always been truly lovable. You deserve health. You deserve safety. You deserve joy. You deserve love. You are love. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this meditation, go to www.nikigratrix.com for more products and information. Take care for now.